The Kansas City Chiefs trimmed their roster to 80, and we're going to discuss what kind of implications it has moving forward as we get oh so close to that 53-man roster cut down day. And as well, Andy Reid gave us an injury report moving forward, so we're going to discuss that. But before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's dive right in. So we are here. One of the first main cut down days to trim the roster to the 80-man for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs, as of yesterday, released 3 players. I'm going to read their names because I don't really know them that well, and a lot of people don't either. But if you're in Chiefs Kingdom, you've seen them play a little bit, but this is nothing unexpected. And it was Brandon Dandridge, Nasir Greer, and David Steinmetz. Now again, it was highly unlikely they were going to make this team, but we do wish them well, and we wish them good on their future endeavors. But let's dive into today's news, which caught me a bit off guard too, because we're thinking, who is going to be these final 2 that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to release to get to that 80-man roster? And one surprising bit was Derek Gore. But he wasn't released, he was put on IR, which is a season-ending IR. Now, if you've watched this channel, you know that I've been high on Derek Gore, but as of this year, you could tell it was going to be a struggle for him to make this roster. So I thought he was going to be let go in the first place, and he ended up going on injured reserve with a thumb injury, which I always tend to wonder. Kansas City does this every year. When they have a player they like, for example, like a Justin Ross, now like Derek Gore too, and they just don't want to let go, it's like, we'll just stash them on the injured reserve. And I'm pretty sure a lot of teams do that too. But does the league like do any research to make sure these players like are hurt for the whole year, or like going through procedures throughout the whole year? I don't know. There's just something fishy about that. But if Kansas City's gonna save their players and hope for a better future with them, I'm all for it. It's just something skeptical to look for. But with Derek Gore, we've seen him do very well in this offense last year and the year before, and in preseason too. It's just this preseason just wasn't really looking like himself. We saw he had a fumble, he was dropping passes, and he just didn't look like himself. Could it have been a thumb injury? Maybe, but I thought that happened during last week's game. Could he have been dealing with other injuries? Who knows? But he just didn't look like himself, and it was kind of unfortunate, and definitely in a year when, yes, we talk about this depth in this running back room. I even made a video about it yesterday, and when it's so deep and you're not performing, there's a highly unlikely chance you're going to make this team. But it rings the bell for one player, and that is Ronald Jones. Now, there's a lot of people thinking Ronald Jones may have bought his way onto this team, and it solidifies his role as a number 4 running back on this team, because you're still going to keep a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Isaiah Pacheco, and as I've always mentioned, a Jerick McKinnon as your veteran back too. So with Ronald Jones, I think he's going to see a lot of carries against the Packers. If he doesn't, I don't know. That either they're like trying to save him and preserve him for the season, which I highly doubt, specifically for someone who hasn't even been with the team yet, or they're just like the writing's on the wall. So I expect Ronald Jones to get a heavy workload to see what he can bring and provide for this team moving in 2022. And if not, if he performs good, maybe there's some trade value there, or he just doesn't make the 53-man roster. And it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited to see what Ronald Jones brings to the table. And then we had another injury update. Well, we actually the rest of this video is going to be injury updates. But to get us to the 80-man, Lucas Niang was also put on PUP, which means I think it was 4 weeks, that is. So he'll miss the first 4 weeks of the season, which is very unfortunate too. I mean, one of the main things coming out of college for Niang was he was one of the best right tackles coming out of college. True, but also when he's on the field. And that's been the same story his whole NFL career. One, he sat out his rookie year, and then when he came back, he had a torn patella, so that was injury written all over it. And then this year, now you're dealing with another injury. And KC can't seem to find their right tackle for the future, which is really unfortunate, because it's like every piece on that line is solidified. Now you can have your question marks with Orlando Brown Jr. and if he's going to be our left tackle of the future. I believe if he performs well, he's going to get paid by Kansas City, and then like every piece is solidified besides that right tackle. And I know Brett Veach is dying to get that final piece to protect Mahomes solidified. It's just not there. Now, Andrew Wiley might show out, and Andrew Wiley has been playing impressive, but when it's not really high capital, but when you spend capital on a right tackle position who has high upside, you hope to get the bang for the buck there, and it just hasn't panned out. Now, does that mean you can call Lucas Niang a bust? I don't want to go that far yet because I haven't fully got to see him yet, unfortunately. Now, if it happens year in and year out where he keeps getting injured, then yeah, eventually you'll have to call him a bust. But I kind of want to give him one more year and see what he can actually do. But until then, you could call him a bust. I'll just have him as to be determined, basically, until he hits that field. Now let's jump into more of the injuries, and this is basically Andy Reid giving us an update of everything that was going on throughout the weekend, and we got an update on Blake Bell. He had surgery on his hip flexor, and we don't know what that timetable is going to be. Honestly, a lot of us thought that was going to put him on injured reserve, and that's how Kansas City was going to get to that 80-man roster, and that wasn't the case. So it depends on how Casey views it moving forward, if he can be on the PUP and miss 4 weeks, or if he has to miss half the season or a whole season. It's going to be interesting to see moving forward. And that also brings a lot of people to believe, well, with missing a tight end position, that might also open a spot for Ronald Jones. So that's why I say Ronald Jones has got to show up, because his life support is like maybe out. Maybe he is good to go, and maybe he can be on this team. But it's still beeping, and we'll just have to see how that is for him moving forward. But it also rose my eye yesterday, and now makes complete sense, was when Kansas City tried to claim for a tight end yesterday, and I am drawing a complete blank, but I will put it like right there. And Washington claimed him, and I was wondering, well, why would Kansas City do that? Because it doesn't make sense. You got Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jody Fortson, and then Blake Bell. I knew Blake Bell was injured. I just didn't know the severity of it. Well, now it makes sense since we know the severity of the injury. All we can do is hope that he heals quickly and that he comes back to KC, because he's our 4th-and-1 quarterback and takes those sneaks. But there was a lot of debate on that too. Even though I was joking around and fooling, is, well, he's an asset, which he is too, but also too, I'm not going to say replaceable because that's kind of messed up to say. But Michael Burton is also a great 3rd-and-1 running back and a 4th-and-1 running back too. So I don't believe KC lost too much besides that direct snap quarterback sneak. But Burton, I don't think, has ever failed on a 1-yard-to-gain situation. So I think KC will still script some game plans for Burton. Burton's definitely on this team. Like, he makes too many plays not to be on this team. So you will count him on this roster too. It's going to be interesting to see what the severity of Blake Bell's injury is going forward. So we'll just have to stay tuned and see what happens. Now we're going to get onto the lighter side of the injury news, where this stuff shouldn't be so serious, but we don't know, because, again, these were all just reports, and Andy Reid gave us an updated report on Carlos Dunlap, where he basically is dealing with a sore Achilles, which puts a lot of people at pause, because like, whoa. We know Achilles is one of the most hardest injuries, specifically if it's torn too, and I think that's what they're trying to avoid. Well, not avoid, but just play it safe, proceed with caution type of thing too. And that basically leaves everyone weary, because they're like, Carlos Dunlap is older. What if that blows out? Then Casey wasted money on him, yada, yada, yada. It's like, now Casey's got to go and find another top-notch pass rusher. We're going to stop all that right there. Casey, just because if Carlos, let's say, God forbid the worst thing happens to Carlos Dunlap, like if he does tear his Achilles, that's not going to put the Chiefs in a position to go sign a top-end pass rusher. For example, Carlos Dunlap right now in his career, he's a good pass rusher, but he's not a top end where Casey needed the trade for. They found him on the market, they waited to get him, and it worked out. They will do that again, or they will wait for these roster cuts to happen, and they'll be like, okay, let's get a young guy who we can develop, or a good pass rusher who's good rotational, and bring him in. Or nonetheless, it's George Karlaftis' time to shine. We've seen how great he's looked in the preseason. Let him go. Let him get most of the snaps, and let's see how much fun he can have back there. Let's try to get him to break Derek Thomas's sack record of 10. Which, even if Dunlap is there, I think George Karlaftis is going to find his way on the field. He just looks way too good. Now, I don't like any of these. I don't know the severity of Dunlap's injury. Like they said, it's just a sore Achilles. Yeah, we can make a lot of it. Yeah, it doesn't sound really good, but at the end of the day, if he rests and he's completely fine week 1 and he's looking like Carlos Dunlap, we're going to forget all about it. Now let's dive into the wide receiver room, because we got a new injury update on Juju, which another scary thing too is it's his knee, and we're like, oh man, please don't be the ACL. Reid said that he does look like he's getting better. They're just proceeding with caution, which is smart. It looks like he won't play against Green Bay, which is smart. I don't see a lot of these starters playing against Green Bay, but then again, if you watch the Chiefs, if you watched Andy Reid, they're going to play one series. Reed never lets any starters miss a complete game. But who knows? It might be a new year. Who knows, like I mentioned. But I still see Mahomes going out there for a series and then just wrapping it up. Let's move on to Arizona and see how it goes. But as for Juju, I think you just got to proceed with caution. That's going to be the term for this video. You don't want him to get hurt. We don't even know how the knee injury happened. We didn't get a direct report on that either. We just know it was a lingering thing that's happened from last week, and it's it's lingering. So we're just wondering, is it really, really bad? But he said he's doing better, so that's good to hear. He should be good for week 1, so no need to worry there. And then we're going to jump into MVS, which I didn't really get a direct report on what his injury was. It's just he didn't practice today, so I'll keep my eyes out on to see if anything happened during camp yesterday. Well, it's not even camp anymore, it's practice. But if anything happened to him, if he got injured, maybe it's an off day, maybe he had an unfortunate family issue, who knows. But people also jumped the gun on that too, saying, damn, he's not gonna be here week 1. Are we gonna have anyone moving forward? Pause. Let's pause, let's hold it. No matter what, even if worst comes to worst, if Juju or MVS isn't out there, Kansas City still has depth. Guarantee Kansas City will go out to get a wide receiver to fill that role while they're gone. So Andy Reid always has a good game plan. He always makes sure to put the best players in the right position to win. So this is a lot of news at once, definitely on the injury side, but I don't think it's nothing to be too concerned about yet. Now, if we get into week 1, into the practice week of week 1, preparing for the Cardinals, and they're still injured and they might be questionable, now you might get a different side of me. But right now, we still got 3 weeks to go. So we're going to be calm, we're going to play it cool, and we're going to have fun with it. But with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to check out. You let me know what news caught your eye today. And also, too, that 53-man roster is coming down. Let me know who you think is going to make the team, who you think needs to play well against the Packers to make this team. And with that, y'all take care. Oh, we're going to pause that. We ain't taking care yet. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Now y'all take care. Peace.